Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm Mike Simpson, Superintendent of Guthrie Public Schools. Today, we are joined by our normal guest when we have students, High School Principal Chris Legrande, of course, our producer engineer Aaron Ryburn, and our two special guests, Bella Aitken and Landon Hirzel. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have just a laid-back chat about all things Guthrie High School and Guthrie Public Schools. And then at the end, you guys can even ask me or Mr. Legrande some questions if you want to. Just don't make them real hard, okay?
All right.
So let's talk a little bit about you. And Bella, we'll start with you. What's your plans after high school? What's next?
As of right now, I'm very unsure of my plans. I'm kind of at a crossroads. I'm running for state FFA office. So depending on if I get that or not will depend on what school I go to. I've thought a lot about ag communications or majoring in biology to become a dermatologist. So
okay.
We'll see what happens.
You know, I've got a good friend that's a dermatologist, and he went and got his medical degree, but he decided he wanted to be a dermatologist because he never had to worry about working in the ER. That's back when doctors had call and stuff like that, so he could be called at any time of the day or night. Said there's never an emergency in dermatology.
Very true. I've also heard that they get holidays off, so
that's even better.
That's a great way to make it work. All right, Landon, what about you?
I will be attending Oklahoma Baptist University, and I'm going to play football there. And I'm looking at majoring in something down the lines of business management or something in that area. But I'm still kind of undecided on a major. Great.
Oh, and Bella, going back to you for a little bit. So if the FFA officer comes through,
mm-hmm.
where does that send you for school?
I would be going to OSU in Stillwater.
That's what I wanted to hear.
If not, I've thought about OSU, OKC,
okay.
And then I've also thought about Northwestern.
Okay, great. And if you end up at Northwestern, the university president and I are very good friends. In fact, I spoke with him. He and I were together yesterday, so it's a good place too. That's good. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Guthrie High School and tell us what it's like to be a student at Guthrie High School.
I've gone to Guthrie my whole life.
Yeah.
So I like Guthrie. I like the connections that I've made. I like the teachers there. It feels like home to me. So,
Landon?
Yeah, I think it's an awesome place to grow up just your whole life, and it's not too small or it's not too big. And I think it's pretty awesome that, both my principal and my superintendent know my name, and then, there's plenty of people to get to know, and I don't know, I think it's a perfect spot to grow up.
The thing that I love about it, as not just a school administrator, but a parent as well, is we are large enough to offer a lot of things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is something that I've said many times, on graduation night, the chances of you knowing the people seated on both sides of you are really high. Mm-hmm. Versus if you go to one of those mega high schools in one of the metro areas where you may graduate with a class of 1,000, and on graduation night you might not know either person on either side of you.
Yeah.
And I just think that's and I went to, you guys probably know, I went to Stillwater. It's not that much larger than Guthrie. And I know Mr. Legrande is a Guthrie High grad, and we've talked about this often, about one of the great things about it is the size of it and the fact that we can offer so many things, yet we still have community. Yeah. So that's good stuff. What is your best memory from being a student at Guthrie High or Guthrie Public Schools?
I mean, there's so many things. It's hard to pick your top one, but probably just even Friday nights or something, just hanging out with your community. Mm-hmm. It just never gets old, and there's some of the greatest memories I'll ever have, and I'll always be able to look back on those as I age and move on in life.
You enjoyed those nights at the Rock, I know that.
I love them. Yeah.
And just the camaraderie and,
yes.
After the games and how everyone goes down onto the field and takes pictures and talks and visits. I think that's unique, and I think that's something that Landon's alluded to that is special about this community.
Yeah.
Bella?
Well, like Landon said, the Friday nights, just being in the stands, that's fun to hang out with your friends and then maybe go somewhere afterwards. That's a lot of fun. And then, I used to play basketball, and so being on the court then, and that was just so much fun.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good memories. Finish this sentence. Guthrie High School is?
Home.
Home,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good. you both are, you've had your entire school career in Guthrie.
Yes.
What makes our community special?
The people. I mean, I almost know everybody. Like when you go to like the 89ers parade, it's like, hey, how's it going? You know everybody, and it's like one big family.
Yeah, the people and like the connections that you can make, because like I've been in Guthrie my whole life. My parents grew up in Guthrie, and so we know so many people, and it just makes your experience living here so much better.
Small town with a lot of people in it.
Yes.
Well, and I was also going to say, both of these students we brought today, their parents are graduates of Guthrie High School as well. And I think that's pretty neat that people think so much of this school system and this community that they choose to come back here and raise their children here as well. And both of these two fine seniors that we have are testaments to that as well.
That's great. Who's made a difference in your life up to this point?
Through school, or
Sure.
I would say one of the biggest role models from the school that I've had would be Mr. Jordan. I love the way he teaches, and he cares a lot about his students, and he'll sit with you one-on-one, and like I needed a letter of recommendation, and it was like, because I got selected for something, and it was like I need it in like 2 days, and that's not always easy, and he just stepped up, and he's always been really kind, and I think he's an excellent teacher.
That's great.
I think for me, it's my ag teachers, because I've been with them for 4 years. And so in the ag building, we're kind of like a family. And like they're my mentors. They've guided me along the way, and they've shown me which way to go, and they've just helped me out.
That's great. I know that in both situations, the people that, Mr. Jordan or Mr. Drake and the rest of our ag staff, I know that they care so much about our students, and it's more than just a job to them. And that's something that I can see because I've been doing this for so long, but you guys confirm it. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, let's go back. We're going to go back to March of 2020. The spring break that never ended. You guys talk a little bit about what that was like and in your lives, and how and just what it was like with where you were in life.
It was definitely something that I don't want to have to go through again. I hated being stuck at home. It was not fun. I got to miss out on a lot of my freshman year, especially things that happen in the spring. Like, for example, in FFA, we do Creed, and so I missed out on that, and I didn't get to give it. And reflecting on that and seeing kids doing it now kind of makes me sad. But in that time, I did have growth. I got to reflect on me and build my growth, especially in my relationship with the Christ. So that was very awesome.
Good. Landon?
It was just really interesting for me because everything was normal. We were on a family trip. We were snow skiing, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're going to be gone for another 2 weeks. And we're like, oh, we get to stay home for 2 weeks from school, Yeah. And then they're like, we're done for the rest of the year. And it's like, man, what are we going to do? And then you're at home for a while. And I am fortunate because we have land and stuff, so we could go outside and do some things, whereas a lot of people were stuck in town. And so I have to be grateful for that. But it was just, you didn't know what was going to happen. So it was like you were trying to figure out what was the next step and what to do and how school is going to look when you come back. Are you going to get to come back? And then when it's finally over, it was just, not everything was perfect yet, but it was incredible to get to see your people again, be back in there with your teachers, and yeah, I'm glad it was over.
And I think that's a great point you bring up, because I know as humans, we're creatures of habit, and we kind of like to be able to control what we do on a day-to-day basis. And you brought up a good point, Landon, because, I mean, you didn't know from one day to the next exactly what was going to happen. There was so much uncertainty that nothing seemed right, and so I think for me that was a big eye-opener too, because we're used to having so much control over our day-to-day schedules and lifestyles, and when all that's taken away and you have to kind of punt and take a few steps back and just say, hey, this is going to be a day-by-day thing, and you're going to have to be patient, and we're not very patient at times. No.
Well, it's kind of funny. I look back at like the memories on Facebook with our family, and people were not in a good place because it was just, your world is turned upside down, and the thing that you guys will take with you is, knock on wood, this is a once every 100-year event that you let's hope we don't go through it again. But and this kind of segues into the next part of this. The next year, we opened school, and we opened without masks. Then we put masks on. We had quarantines. We had, what was it like in school with you guys? How was that your sophomore year?
It was difficult and frustrating at certain times. Like when we were in the playoffs and we lost a couple kids, and you understand why, and then you're in school and all of a sudden you're quarantined for 2 weeks, and you missed a test, or you missed out on some baseball games or something, and it was like, man, and then you get back and then you're by another person who has it. And distance learning was great for us to have because we wouldn't have been able to catch up, but it's not as easy as being right there with the teacher, being able to go up and ask for help personally. And so it was challenging, but it was necessary to get us through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely was a challenging part of our lives. And like now, we're not just ever out of school. We always have distance learning now. And for me personally, I hated wearing the mask. It was definitely not something that I liked. Yeah. And so, but we made it through, and here we are. So,
the thing that I struggle with so much is there was no game plan. There was no blueprint of you do this, and if this happens, you do this. You're flying by the seat of your pants on so much of this. And what I reflected on after that year, your sophomore year, we kept a log, and I had knowledge of every student that had tested positive or staff member, and every family member, assuming that they were reporting it to us. And so I was watching all that, and everyone that was in quarantine. And my conclusion was, and it wasn't necessarily in line with what other schools were doing in the metro area, but my conclusion after that year was we sent a lot of people home that were healthy. And, you can't fault the people that were giving us the information because they were doing the best they could. But we sent so many people home that never got sick. And that's when we said, when we started that, what would have been your junior year, I said, we're not doing this anymore. We're not sending people home that are not sick. Mm-hmm. But it was such a challenge for, I know, you guys as well, because anytime you make a change, like putting the mask on, or then the infection levels went down, we take the masks off. Anytime you do something like that, there are people that said, well, I'm not coming to school because they're not wearing masks, or I'm not coming to school because they are not wearing masks. It was a no-win deal. Mm-hmm. And it was the thing that you guys come out of this with, though, is you can look back on that with some resilience that no one else will have for a generation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And what I was going to say, too, is that as an administrator and the school principal is we would have to make those calls home to those parents and say, okay, they were in close contact with such and such, so now your child's going to have to be. And finally they just got to the point, Mr. Legrande, they've been home now 6 times. We had some students that had been that's over half the school year that they had missed, and so, it was frustrating for me because it's like, I understand, but it's the protocols that we have to follow, and we really can't do anything about it. But yet at the same time, in the back of my mind, knowing that some of these kids are really missing out on important instruction because they didn't have the technology or the bandwidth or the connectivity to do that work at home. And so That was a struggle, but like you said, Dr. Simpson, I think everything you can learn from, and you can take something from it and grow with it. And that unintended consequence, and we've talked about it many times, is, really there's no need for a snow day anymore, because the teachers that weren't really equipped to be able to do online instruction were suddenly pushed over the edge of the cliff and had to learn how to do it. And so now it just makes it so much better, so that if you do miss, you know where you can go and get your assignments, and you can get caught back up pretty quickly.
So let me guess, you guys would rather just have a snow day.
It is nice not having to make them up, or getting the free day like last Friday. That was especially.
Let's be honest.
Especially on 89ers week, getting to stay home on Friday. That was pretty nice.
It's great that we don't have to make those up at the end now. So
right.
But you'd rather have a snow day, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Trust me, I go home and hear it from my own kids, so I know. Okay, so let's kind of go back to, if I could change one thing at Guthrie High School, take it and run with it.
So going to the bathroom is very frustrating, because so many kids in there are vaping or just doing stuff that I don't like. And so it's hard, especially during passing period, because it's so crammed. And I don't know, I would just love to see, maybe I've seen teachers come in and try to catch people, but just having a teacher signed to that bathroom every passing period. Like, I know that we have to have bathroom passes to go during class now, but passing period is the worst.
And I'm glad you shared that with us, because that's something that Mr. Legrande and I and Mr. Throckmorton and Mr. Stone, we have collectively, even Mr. Ogle, our assistant soup, we have talked about what solutions, and we've even installed some vape detectors to try them out to see if they're worthwhile. And that is there are things that change in education. And that's something that is a fairly recent phenomenon of the vaping, and it's not just a Guthrie thing. I mean, I talk to administrators all over the country that are fighting with the same battle. And the thing that I don't want to have is, I don't want you to not feel comfortable using the restroom. We're trying to make the restrooms better, because they were in pretty bad shape. But I don't want that. I want you to feel comfortable in every part of that school. And I know Mr. Legrande does too. And so, we're talking, and I'll get to the kind of some transition in leadership in that building here in just a little bit, but we're looking at some things to try to make some changes going into next year that maybe will improve that. But know that we are aware of that problem, and we know that it needs to have some attention shown on it. Landon, what about you? If you could change one thing at Guthrie High School?
Mine's probably not as deep as her, but I would love to have a swim team. I like swimming a lot.
Okay.
And to be able to do it as a sport, I think that'd just be really fun. But
both the other schools that I was an administrator at had swimming, but we had an indoor pool in the community, and that's something that we lack here. We've had some conversation with the city about what that might look like down the road. I think they want to do an outdoor water park as opposed to an indoor pool, because the cost of keeping that pool heated during the winter when swimming is in season is pretty expensive. But it's something that in the back of my mind, we just added volleyball. We're going to take that progression up to the 9th grade, and then we'll gradually go to the varsity. But that's something that I've kind of had on my mind, if we had the facility and we had the interest. And I'm big, you guys, I'm huge on extracurricular activities. That's why we added esports and things like that, because I want all of our students to be involved in things that lengthen the school day for them, because I know that when they are with us, under the care of our coaches, our staff, that's in many cases, and with other students, it's a great opportunity for them. And I know that both of you guys have been highly involved in extracurriculars. Between ag and athletics and all of the things that we offer, that's something that makes a huge impact on students, and especially at-risk students. It provides a great avenue for them to stay in school. And so that's why I'm so big on that. And just go make your millions and go build us an indoor pool. And then we got it all solved.
I'll give it my best shot.
There's a challenge. What's something that should never change at Guthrie High School?
I'd say the spirit. I think the spirit's one of the best things at Guthrie, and just the community bringing it all together. Mm-hmm. I think it's great, and I don't think it should ever change.
Okay.
Yeah. The morals. Like, I feel like our school has really good morals, and that's what makes us a good community.
It's good.
And I was going to add too, Landon, you bring it up. I mean, we're right in the middle of Rock Week right now, which is our annual philanthropy project, and we do this each year. And we kind of strategically picked this week because we just finished all of our state testing, and it's the week before we start our AP exams, and so. He mentioned school spirit, and I think that's a big part of it, because of the fact that we want to really encourage our students to give back to the community. And I think she mentioned morals and our values, and that's one of the things that I'm proud of as principal, is that we try to incorporate that into our educational curriculum at the high school, is that, you know what, there are people out there that are less fortunate than us, and we need to help them in any way we can. And this year our recipient is the Logan County Aging Services. And so obviously those seniors need food, and they need entertainment, and they need resources. And so our money that we're collecting, which typically is between $8,000 and $10,000, is going directly to that organization. And I think that that's so important that we instill that in our students.
You know, that's something that you think about, the cross-generational things that go on in our community. And the fact that I've said this for a long time, we take care of our own. And it's just the notion that our students would want to help a segment of our community that is 2 generations older than they are. Speaks volumes of what not only has been instilled in them by the staff, but also their parents. And I think that's just that's a huge win. And that's something that what you guys have shared with me today. I always get recharged when I have these conversations, because I've got faith in what we're doing, and the product that we're producing of you guys are going to be leaders when you leave Guthrie and hopefully come back to Guthrie. And that's something that I think is a product of not only your parents but the school, and it's all 3 of us together: your parents, the school, and you guys. And it takes all 3 of us to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that you guys would like to ask?
So, Mr. Legrande, you're going in after you leave here this year. Where are you going? You're going to a Principals Association? Is that right?
Okay, you're taking my thunder. That was my question. You knew that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so good question. So basically, I'm going to be working for the Cooperative Council of Oklahoma School Administration. We call that COSA. We use a lot of acronyms in education, and that's one of them. And so COSA is an umbrella organization, and it's made up of superintendents, principals, special ed directors, et cetera, central office staff. And so I'm going to be the executive director of the Middle School and Secondary Principals Association. Awesome. And so basically, I will be taking my skills to, instead of just a community effort, this will be on a statewide level, so I'll be working with principals around the entire state of Oklahoma.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, that's exciting.
Anything else you guys want to ask us?
So if y'all could have gone to Guthrie at like any time period, like personally, I feel like the 80s, just cars and hair and dancing. Like, when would you have liked to go to school here?
That's kind of a trick question, Dr. Simpson, because
I'm not sure where he's going with this.
We are from the 80s. We're
that's
products of the 80s.
And he brought up hair. He brought up hair.
Hey, I'm not mad at you. I'm just envious. I'm jealous because I did. Back in the 80s, I actually, if you go back into the 86 yearbook, you'll see the mullet that I sported back in the day. So
at one time when I was in high school, I grew my hair down and it curled up in the back. And I remember sitting down at dinner and my dad said, "I think it's time for a haircut." And I said, "Yes, sir." But no, you guys are growing up in a great time too.
Yeah.
But I think Mr. Legrande and I would probably say that we grew up in a great time, and I think it's just wherever you are is a good time. But Landon and I, when I see, the other day I saw a Trans Am with Smokey and the Bandit package on it. I'm thinking, ooh, I wonder if I could get that thing, if they'd sell that. Because I had a Firebird at one time, but it wasn't souped up like that with that package and all that good stuff. And those were great memories. But you guys are growing up in a great time too, because you've got so much information at your fingertips that you don't even know a time that you had to remember a phone number. I used to be able to memorize phone numbers like crazy. I couldn't. They've got to be in my contacts now, or I don't ever do that. But the time that you're growing up in of having all that information right there, the problem is some of that information's not truthful, and so that's sifting through that is more of a challenge than maybe what Mr. Legrande and I faced.
Yeah.
Okay, so we touched on it. Bella touched on this a little bit, but Mr. Legrande, we're going to have a transition here. Mr. Throckmorton's going to take over as principal at the high school. Hopefully, we'll be able to name some assistant principals early next week. So, what's it feel like right now?
Well, for me, it's nervous energy. It's bittersweet, and I've said this several times before. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to be the principal at Guthrie High School. And if you go and read my bio on my webpage, that's something that I've taken great pride in, is being able to lead the school from which I graduated. I think that's really cool that a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and I have had for the last 11 years. I've enjoyed the students. I've loved being able to basically form my own faculty and staff. A lot of the teachers that are there, I've pretty much had a hand in either hiring them or bringing them along and nurturing them. And so I'm going to definitely miss that. I've told people that I'm really not going anywhere. I'm not moving. And so we're still going to, in fact, I'm very proud of this. We just paid off the mortgage on my house, and
good
so
for you.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. That's as you guys are going to learn, that's a big accomplishment when you don't have to have a house payment. And so we're not moving anywhere. I'm still going to be in Guthrie, and my wife has already told me, because she does all the concessions at the football and the basketball and the wrestling, and she goes, "You at least can come up and help me pop popcorn." And so anyway, I'll be around. I'm gonna definitely miss being around the students on a day-to-day basis, but I really look forward to working with administrators. In fact, to kind of explain it, I'll basically be a mentor, coach, professional development supporter of middle school and secondary principals. And so I'll just be kind of another leg to lean on for people that are needing extra help and assistance. And, the last couple of years I've been really involved in COSA. They've asked me to be on several panels and presentations and part of new principals academies. And this past year I was in the Oklahoma Principal Leadership Institute, and so I was actually a principal coach in charge of 5 or 6 principals. So I'd been doing a lot of this work anyway, and it's something that I really like, I enjoy. And it's like anything. I tell people all the time, when you go from one position to another, you're trading. No job is perfect. And you're going to be trading in one set of problems for another set of problems. And so even though there's things that I'm not going to miss, there's definitely things that I will miss as well.
Well, you've done an outstanding job of leading your alma mater, and I can't thank you enough for all of the for our friendship as well. And that's something that you became the high school principal the same time I became the superintendent. And we've worked together through a whole lot, and you guys have been on the front row for a lot of that with between COVID and trying to figure out a way to get you graduated and everything else. And so, Bella, Landon, I can't thank you enough also for being with us today, and also for all of the work that you've done as Blue Jays with our community. And I know that you guys. I know that I see you guys helping other students along the way, and that doesn't go unnoticed with me as well. You guys are leaders, and appreciate you being here. Well, that's going to wrap it up for Chalk Talk. Again, thanks to Bella and Landon for joining us, and thanks for listening in. This will probably be the last one for this school year on Chalk Talk, but we really appreciate our guests that were with us, Bella Aitken and Landon Hirzel. And so for Chris Legrande, producer-engineer Aaron Ryburn, Bella Aitken, Landon Hirzel, I'm Mike Simpson. Thank you for joining us.